rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the last video that I made, in which I talked about the social debt that was being accrued by liberal Muslims in the United States and how that was going to be leveraged against them by non-Muslim liberals, particularly over the LGBT and trans issue, that video received a series of short comments by a self-identifying transgender person. So I thought I would respond in video form. So first, you said that you have found Muslims in America to be more accepting than Christians. Now, I don't doubt that to be true, but this requires a little bit more explaining. First of all, tolerance and compassion are also things that Muslims have been commanded to practice. It's a component of our submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It means we're doing it for Him, not for you. This is important to clarify, because our compassion and our tolerance are not a blank check. They're not limitless. They can extend only so far as the religion allows. Now, this protects us from being manipulated, and it protects you from never being told when you've gone too far. Now, as for Muslims who you may have interacted with who don't appear to limit their compassion and tolerance within the boundaries allowed by the religion, that's because Muslims in America are incredibly vulnerable to coercion because of their existential need to be accepted in a society that fundamentally despises them. And this is the basis for the naive and gullible strategy promoted by liberal Muslim organizations vis-a-vis the LGBTQ community. They see that you all have been phenomenally effective in pushing your agenda and bullying the population into acquiescence, reversing in a few years, just a few short years, reversing American disapproval for homosexuality and same-sex marriage and same-sex relationships. So for purely cynical reasons, they thought it would be effective and useful for them to align themselves with the liberal side of the political spectrum, thereby gaining access to your community's remarkably loud and energetic activism in order to help themselves. So in actuality, this isn't about compassion or tolerance. It's an alliance of convenience. It's mercenary, not merciful. And essentially, this is born out of those Muslims' resistance to just accepting that they are despised in that country, despite the fact that our religion makes it clear to us that there are always going to be people who despise us. Now, they rely on the constitutional protections of freedom of religion in order to try to hold back that hatred. But ironically, the very fact that they feel the need to align themselves with you all demonstrates how hollow that protection really is. Which brings us to the next few comments. You said that you always show up to defend Muslims when they're being attacked, and you will continue to defend their right to practice their religion, regardless of whether or not they ever reciprocate your goodwill. Okay, but it isn't goodwill though, is it? Freedom to practice your religion is the law of the land. You're defending the Constitution, not us, and that's for your own reasons, but you're trying to make it appear that you're sticking your neck out for Muslims so that we'll be grateful. This is a very passive-aggressive form of coercion and manipulation. I'm always there for you, even if you're not there for me. I mean, it'd be great if you could be there for me, but, you know, maybe you're not quite as decent as I am. Maybe someday you could be as decent and as good and virtuous as me. Now, this will work, and has worked on some people, but not me. I know it's a ploy. It's transactional, because in America today, principles and values have eroded to such an extent that nobody actually takes moral stands. They don't do things for moral reasons, they do things for benefit. And this is particularly true in the realms of political and social activism. There's just a lot of deviousness going on here. You want to play us off the Christians, because the Christians are famous for being all about love and tolerance, and the Muslims are famous for being rigid and harsh. So if you can claim that Muslims are more tolerant and more understanding and more loving and all of that, more so than Christians, well, that's what they're famous for. You can shame them for their uncharacteristic intolerance, and intolerance that they don't want to believe about themselves. It's a manipulation. Like, how could you Christians, followers of Jesus, be more judgmental than Muslims? And of course, it's not even true. Catholics, Protestants, and Orthodox Christians are all more accepting of LGBTQ than Muslims. But your target isn't the Catholics and the Protestants and the Orthodox Christians. Your target is the white evangelical Christians who hate us even more than they hate you, and who are one of the largest and most influential political blocs in the country. So if you can persuade them to be morally superior to Muslims by being more accepting of your community, that's a big win for you. It's all just cynical maneuvering, both on your part and on the part of liberal Muslims. Now, one further point. Gender dysphoria is a psychological disorder. Islam is not. Gender dysphoria does not articulate a moral code and laws and a practice of worship that billions of people have followed for over a millennia. Identity confusion is not an identity.